the Baltimore Ravens are being dismantled. And it is so true.
They are.
They lose Paul Kruger to Cleveland. They use Donnell Ellerbe
to
Miami. Ray Lewis retires. Ed Reed most likely gone. A lot of people see him maybe going to San Francisco.
Anquan Bolden.
Anquan Bolden goes to San Francisco. What, if anything, based on what's happened so far, have expectations of this team repeating just gone completely out the window? Like, can they really rely on Joe Flacco to lead this team?
Well, my next thing was Joe Flacco got his money, he got what he wanted, but because he got what he wanted, everybody left. There's no more money to sign anybody else.
It's like, oh man, like Eric, I know you have some kind of opinion on this, man. Like,
he's just waiting to explode.
Do you look at this Ravens team and now say you're the third best team in your division after what's gone on already?
No, because I don't want to discount Ray Rice and Flacco and Torrey Smith and the rest of them. They still have a good team there. It's going to be a competitive division. I think the winner of that division next year is going to be a 10-win team. I don't think it's going to be a 12 or 13-win team. I think you're going to come back down to the rest of the pack a little bit, but I think they're going to be there fighting. I just find it funny how they all kind of rallied together for one last hurrah almost in Ray Lewis's name this postseason. And then Ray Lewis retires, and now he's with Espen, and you got Flacco signs for the big money. And they just seem like after they signed Flacco, which they had to do, you can't have a Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback and then not sign him the next year. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
but I feel like after Lewis's retirement, I mean, he was the emotional leader of that team. And when you lose the emotional leader, the team itself, the players on the team look at it and they say, well, it's not the same locker room now. This isn't the same group of guys I've played with for the last, however long.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to move on. So they ship Bolden out, and next thing you know, they say, well, if they're shipping Bolden out, Ray Lewis isn't coming back. We're not sure what's happening with Ed Reed. Paul Kruger says, well, the Browns are going to give me a little bit more money. I'll go play with the Browns. Let's see what happens. Daniel Ellerbe says, oh, well, Miami's going to offer me a little bit more money. You know what? Maybe it's time I move on to Miami. I'll tell you what, Ed Reed, I heard it yesterday, and I think about it. If they're not going to put money into Ed Reed, I bet you there's a place Ed Reed lands, and it's out west with the 49ers.
Yeah, everybody's aiming at that one. And you put, but
I think that'd
be huge for them because they're most likely losing Deshaun Golston. He's over in, I think he was meeting with St. Louis. He was meeting with maybe a division rival. Not 100% sure where he was meeting, but I know that Deshaun Golston is a guy that they could be losing this year. So Ed Reed could fill in very well for them.
Oh, absolutely.
You put 8 in the box, let Ed Reed play free safety all in the middle of the field. And that San Fran team, man, they're doing whatever they can. But I'll tell you, I think this Ravens team, to me, this is a sign of faith in their coaching staff, that they believe in that coaching staff. And I really think that when you look at the Ravens organization, if there's one thing you can say about them, is yes, I know they only won 2 Super Bowls in 13 years or whatever it was, but they've been consistently competitive every single year, and that's been without good quarterback play for a couple years as well. So this organization, you got to have faith in them. If you're a Ravens fan, you have to have faith in them. You got to try at least to. But speaking of like the 49ers, I mean, look at this NFC West. Just 2 years ago, the NFC West was the joke of the NFL. Legitimately the joke of the NFL. Now you have the Super Bowl favorite in it. You have a Seattle Seahawks team that is one of the youngest teams in the league, and most people do truly believe that they are going to continue to get better. I don't know if Pete Carroll's the guy to get them to the next level of NFC Championship game, Super Bowl appearances. I don't know if he's that guy. But all the talent they're assembling, pretty damn good. Then you look at St. Louis. St. Louis goes out, signs Jared Cook to play tight end. You have they have Jake Long in St. Louis right now. They could be bringing him in to play tackle. They're in the running for. They're looking at defensive help. They have a decently high draft pick. Jeff Fisher is their head coach, so they're building. And then you have the Arizona Cardinals, who's sort of the bottom, bottom feeder down on, in the bottom of their division. But as a division, this team in a matter of just a couple years transformed to the joke to a division that people are like, oh, crap. I don't want to go play them.
Well, yes, as of yesterday, Vegas has the 49ers and Seahawks, the two favorites to win the Super Bowl so far as of now, after all these moves.
Vegas has
Seattle and the Niners.
Wow.
Like one after the other, saying that either one they're the highest odds to not the lowest odds. I mean to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, see, I would be willing to bet on San Fran. I don't think Seattle's ready. I'd be willing to bet on.
They'll definitely be there in the next few years.
Both teams take a step back next year from where they were this year.
You think both teams take a step back?
Both teams do not win as many games next year as they won this year. Would you have Seattle win 11 games this year? And would the 49ers win 12?
Yeah.
I think you're going to see both teams win 10 games next year.
Yeah, Niners win 12-3-1.
Not big steps back, but I think both teams don't break 10.
But enough to make the playoffs, though. Obviously, enough to make.
Could be enough to make the playoffs, yeah. But I don't think both teams get more than 10 wins, and I'll tell you exactly why. The sophomore slump. Both these quarterbacks had their first year starting last year. Second year, everybody's got more game film on them. Everybody game plans for them in a different way. Yeah. And even if you add some weapons like you had Bolden and Harvin, I don't care. Defenses are going to be more ready for you this coming year than they were last year.
The one thing I'll say that he is right about is, I will tell you right now, every defensive coordinator in the NFL is doing nothing during this offseason other than studying the read option and the best way to stop it.
And that's the thing is, because so many teams run it nowadays, it's a lot easier for defensive coordinators to game plan for it, because you're not game planning for one game for the season where you're like, all year long, you play one style of defense, and then that one game, you have to game plan something different for the read. Nowadays, between Cam Newton and RG3 and Russell Wilson and Kaepernick and all these guys out there, there's got to be 6 or 7 guys in the NFL now that run read options. You're probably going to play them 2 or 3 times a year, at least twice a year, especially if you're in their division. You game plan for it differently, and if you're a team, you're probably going to see 2 or 3 of these guys throughout the year. You have a whole defense in play that you're going to be ready for. I think that listen, the option has never worked in the NFL for a long stretch of time. I don't see it continuing to work for a long stretch of time, and I think next year these teams that run it, like you saw this year, last year, not this past year, but the year before, when Cam Newton was a rookie, he came in and everybody, oh my God, Cam Newton.
Bro, he tore the league
throws for
apart.
4,000 yards, does this, does that. Last year, where was Cam Newton? You didn't hear about him. You heard about Luck. You heard about RG3. You heard about Wilson. Nobody really talked about Cam because he didn't have the same
Cam
year.
didn't get talked about until about week 13. Fantasy football owners that made the playoffs with Cam Newton loved Cam Newton in the final couple weeks of the year because he was killing.
Yeah, he was, because I got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs.
Cam wasn't in the finals of their league and probably wasn't in the playoffs.
My boy took Cam Newton with the 12th overall pick in the first round and won the whole league. Cam Newton
like I said,
went nuts.
Yeah, he went nuts in the playoffs. He went nuts. He had like 45 points in the first
fantasy
round.
Listen,
football
all I know is Drew
Week
Brees.
13 to 16 or 17 went nuts.
I'll tell you right now, he didn't put up as many points as Drew Brees put up. And I know that because I had Drew Brees. Drew Brees was putting up over 30 points every single week, especially the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Cam did about the same. He did. He had that long touchdown run. Cam went nuts in the final weeks. I'm telling
you that I play. You know me. I play in a lot of leagues. I talk to a lot of people. You're the first person that told me Cam Newton was a championship quarterback on a fantasy team. And by the way, other than fantasy, which is, again, fantasy, in the real NFL.
Well, they won 4 of their last 5. In the real NFL,
where did that man finish? Because I believe he finished with the same record his rookie year as he did this past year.
I'm just talking about that. I agree with you. For the first 12, 13 weeks of the year, Cam Newton was irrelevant.
Oh,
he had a couple random big plays here and there, but those final couple weeks when he finally started to get a little more comfortable, I mean, it shouldn't have taken him that damn long, so I'm not trying to give him a compliment right now. All I'm just trying to say is that in those last couple weeks, Cam Newton finally got back into playing how he did in his rookie year. And I do agree that teams get that game film on you, and it's up like it's almost like that constant game of chess where it's like, all right, we figured out how to stop you from doing this. Well, now you need to figure out how to beat us from stopping you from and it's that constant give and take, and that's what separates good players from great players. Is the great players, they adjust before you adjust to them.
How many great mobile quarterbacks in NFL history are really Hall of Famers? Let me ask you.
Randall Cunningham, Steve
Young.
McNair,
Steve Young was a mobile.
Steve Young.
He has
Roger
moments.
Staubach was considered mobile for his day.
Yeah,
Today he wouldn't be considered
Even
mobile.
Steve
for
Young,
his
you
day,
can
he was
consider
considered
mobile, but Steve Young didn't rush for nearly the yards that these guys
No, but he did hold the record for
didn't
rushing in the Super Bowl until Kaepernick obviously broke it, which was only 48 yards, but it was a rushing record that for a quarterback it lasted for a long time.
48 yards is nothing.
I know, but
48 yards.
Give the
You
man
asked for scrambling quarterbacks.
The man
That's
what I'm
you
saying.
got.
The man had
No,
it.
I
The man
didn't
had
say
it.
scrambling
Or
quarterbacks.
mobile quarterbacks. I mean, these are the options
But
you
then
have
can
based on the
consider- You can
game.
consider John Elway. I'm talking like real running quarterbacks.
But they never
And
even
that's
were. They
that's
weren't even
Cunningham.
part of the league for what? Only 2 decades out of a 6-7 decade league.
They've been there. They've tried them.
I mean, there's really not been.
There's been athletic
I mean, you go
quarterbacks
back to
in
the
past.
Redskins with what's his name,
Doug Williams.
Doug Williams, and I mean, he wasn't
yeah.
really considered a
Not-
mobile quarterback.
He was.
But what I'm saying
he was
though
a
is,
bust
even
anyway.
when these guys have
Won
been
Super
coming
Bowl
in,
and
I mean,
he was
I don't
terrible.
think people are going to consider Vic a Hall of Famer.
No, absolutely not. Well, not
No way.
after that dog incident. Anyway, he's never going to get
You
me
know,
because that's going to ruin him.
I just don't think mobile quarterbacks last that long in the NFL.
Whoa.
And that's why I'm not a big fan of Cam. I'm not a big fan of RG3.
Oh, well, RG3
I'm not a
ready
big
is
fan of
rookie season, knee
of
surgery.
even Russell Wilson. And again, you know me, I'm also not a fan of guys who only play 1 year of big college ball. And really, that's all these guys have played as well.
Going back to what you said before, obviously the sophomore slump. So out of the 2 quarterbacks, which one do you think will have the better year? Out of either Kaepernick or Wilson? Because you're saying, one of them's going to have a decent year. They're both not going to be bad. I know one of them's going to excel.
Well, the biggest blessing is the fact that both quarterbacks are blessed with a really, really good running game and really good defenses. I think Kaepernick's more threatening. I think he has
longer legs,
a stronger arm.
yeah,
I think he's a little
runs.
faster. I think he's a little bit bigger.
Wilson's smart though with the football.
Wilson's very smart, and he's a little lower to the ground, which, when it comes down to avoiding some bigger hits,
Oh, by
should
the way,
help him.
Bernard Pollard was released by the Ravens.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So the Ravens tearing
Yeah.
themselves
Just
down even more.
he tweeted it out. His time in Baltimore is done.
Wow.
Literally just updated a few minutes ago.
It's a lot of moves.
With
man.
Pollard gone, they've lost their first, second, and third top tacklers from last year.
Wow.
They've lost, I believe it's 58% of their sacks 62% of their sacks and like over 60%, I believe, also in their interceptions as well from last year's team.
It's crazy, man. They are legitimately just getting torn apart. And the question is, or not even the question, the saddest part about it is most of their doings are their doings. It's not like teams are tearing them apart.
No, but like I said,
Kruger
when
and the Ellerby signing, fine,
people
but
don't all those guys, Ellerby, Kruger, Pollard, even Ed Reed, more than even Ravens, they were Ray Lewis's guys. And without that guy there to lead them, without somebody calling them up and saying, "Hey, I need you here," they're like, "Well, we won a Super Bowl. We're all kind of happy now. Let's go get paid.
They all
Let's
said it
go
was
somewhere else."
Yeah, they all said it was last year or bust. I mean, that was it because obviously you knew things were going to be. I mean, they probably knew it before. Obviously, we did that things were going to be. Players were going to go on their own way and do their own, go play a different team, whatnot. Because they even reported it saying that it was pretty much last year with Ray Lewis leaving. He's a leader. He's the one that held everybody together, and they won a Super Bowl. Obviously because of his inspiration and his desire, love for the game. When he left, everything just fell apart.